Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back. Our guest today is a very good friend, Jeffrey Tucker, the founder and president of the Brownstone Institute and the author of The Market Loves You, Why You Should Love It Back. Welcome back, Jeffrey.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you back on. Every time you're on, we get everything rolling, and it's such a breath of fresh air. And I wanted to get you on to let's talk about the markets. Let's talk about silver and gold. First, get right on into silver and gold. What are your thoughts on the market right now for
We,
precious
we,
metals?
we're seeing unprecedented demand, for gold for international central banks right now, and that's just mostly a result of a couple of things. One is the instability concerning international trade, and of course, what do you know? Everybody goes back to whatever, what they know most, which is gold and silver.
Yeah.
There's also a perception and a belief that maybe we have an international monetary accord coming up, and there's talk in the streets about a possible new gold standard, which I don't believe that for a second. I mean, there may be people talking about it, but nobody knows how to get from here to there. Like, I've never seen a viable plan for this. As much as I favor it, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. So, but there is talk about it, but I don't think it's real. I think they're going to experiment around with some kind of fixed exchange rate regime, but it's not going to involve gold, which is fine. I mean, whatever. But it means that we've got a lot of central banks interested in gold to shore up their positions.
Looking beyond 2025, Jeffrey, how do you envision the integration of gold and silver into the next generation of financial products? Like what you were just saying, just now, like you don't see a fixed thing that will be backed by gold. Will there ever be anything backed by gold in the future globally, or is it just out of the question?
Well, I think about this all the time, really, and I dig through plans, and listen, if I had a way, a scheme, a blueprint for getting from here to there to restore something like what we had before, 1944 or 1933 or anything in the 19th century or before, I would do it. It would fix all of our trade problems, all of our budget problems, and like so much. Like almost everything that's wrong with the world traces to fiat money. I'm sorry to say, but it's just true. But I don't know. I've looked at every plan that's out there, and every time somebody says they have an easy way to do it, you examine it, and the problem is not the goal. The problem is the transition. That's when nobody really knows how to do that. And I'm glad I'm not advising the Trump administration, but I'm not sure I would. I don't know how it would work really. I mean, once you invent paper money and unplug the anchor from the world monetary system, it's just hard to re-anchor it, unfortunately.
Do you think they're scared of trying to make that transition because they've been so used to the fiat system so far and they're so used to it, and maybe if they transition to something else, they're just scared of a collapse or scared to tamper with the
Yeah,
working
no,
market?
that's part of the problem. The Western economies are so wildly inflated. I mean, we're addicted to fiat money and leverage. All the most lucrative businesses are levered up, and leverage pays more than capital. That's been true for a very long time. Leverage pays more than profits. That's been true for a very long time. So I don't know how you get unaddicted to something like that. You can taper off, but I, I don't know what that really means, what that looks like. So yeah, I'm a little despairing about, the prospects here. I would love a, shock therapy,
Yeah.
to a pure gold standard, but I've just never seen a viable plan to get from here to there. It's funny. One of the things that Elon had toyed with, almost like he was trolling the Trump administration, was the idea of auditing Fort Knox to find out, whether and to what extent that place has anything at all. Nobody actually knows.
Right.
And he suggested that they would do a live, tour with an iPhone. And Trump cheered and said, "Yeah, let's do it." Of course, there's no talk about that anymore, which makes
Yeah.
one deeply suspicious. But we don't know how much gold the U.S. government owns. I mean, and a gold standard for the dollar would require, vast ownership, most of which was stolen, by the way, in 1933. But something tells me that, between 1968 and 1972, was mostly shipped out of the country to sustain the old Bretton Woods system. And then when that ran out, or it was almost entirely gone, they panicked and just unplugged it entirely. I mean, that's a conspiracy theory, I guess you would say.
Mhm.
But let's just say there's no evidence to contradict it, you know?
Well, the only thing that upsets me is like, we had Trump come out and said, "Yeah, let's audit Fort Knox, let's do something about it," and then just radio silence on it. And if the mass public is not pushing it every single day and saying, "Hey, let's do this," then it's kind of like, "Hey, let's sweep it under the rug." Because in the past month, 2, 3 months, I've heard nothing about auditing Fort Knox, but that kind of what makes us distrust governments even more. And
Well,
it's
what would
it
be the
sucks.
result if it turned out the gold was gone, and there were documents that came out that said, oh, unfortunately, that was all shipped out between 1966 and 1972. What would be the consequences of that? Maybe nothing, or maybe it would, actually shatter public psychology. We don't actually know. I mean, do you know people who think that the dollar is backed by gold? I do. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot of people think that.
every single person, I guess, on my channel who I interview, they are kind of in the gold and silver space, so they know that gold is
Yeah,
not backed by, or the
the
U.S. dollar is
dollar's
not
backed
backed
by
by
gold.
gold.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess your average Joe out there would still believe that, oh no, countries hold gold, so they still
Well,
have gold.
I remember when I was an undergraduate learning that the dollar was based on absolutely nothing but, just, the confidence. And
Yeah, I remember that
I
too.
I remember thinking, what? This this is a disaster. The bottom's about to fall out. That was a lot of
Right.
years ago, and it still
Well,
hasn't
well,
entirely
I
fallen.
I was at the pool about 3, 4 months ago by my house, and one of the girls in the pool was like, "Oh no, Canada owns gold," and I'm like, "No, Canada sold all of its gold reserves," and they're like, "No, Canada owns like a lot of gold," but I'm like, "Oh man, people, the mass public don't know
Yeah,
what's going on."
yeah, they have no idea. They have no
Yeah.
idea. But there's other big things happening right now. With this trade situation. We've got Trump still pushing, every 2 days, announcing some crazy new tariff thing, and nobody can make sense of it. And I can just tell you that I know this for certain that Elon was very frustrated, by Trump's fixation on the tariff issue, and many appointees within the Trump administration are upset. They're sick of it. Wall Street's sick of it. The Wall Street Journal's sick of it. Everybody's sick of it. Everybody but Trump himself. And the whole thing reminds me of something like the novel Moby Dick, which I don't know if you're familiar with the way the thing goes, but Captain Ahab puts together a crew on a ship to go whaling, and they're all really excited about it. Let's go catch some whales. But when they board the ship, he said, "Look, there's only one whale I want. It's just one whale, and it's Moby Dick. And it's the whale that ate my leg." And they thought, well, that's crazy. He surely doesn't mean that. And they keep, and they're out to sea, and then they catch a whale, and he's like, "Oh, that's a dumb whale. Forget that whale." And so well, there's 30 whales over there. Can we get those? No, we're only going to get this one whale. So they're out in the China Sea, and the whale is gigantic, and they finally found it. And eventually, it brings that ship and kills everybody, and including Captain Ahab, right?
Oh,
So anyway,
jeez.
it's just a story of fanaticism over a single idea pursued at the expense of everything else. And sometimes it seems like this is Trump with the tariffs. He's Captain Ahab with Moby Dick. He just can't give it up, even though everybody warns him. The lawsuit that was brought before the Federal Court of International Trade was brought by his own supporters, who were businesses that were importing things from abroad. And
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, no, it's not like some sort of leftist plot, right? This is the bourgeoisie are sick of this crap. But the appeals court reversed the lower court decision, and now we're waiting for how that turns out. But then today we got the new trade deficit figures in. It was the biggest decline in the trade deficit on record, like ever, following the biggest increase ever, where you had stockpiling of imports in advance of the application of the tariffs. And
Well,
so Trump is, today bragging that this is a great achievement, but it's hard to see really how this is an achievement. Just shutting down imports. I mean, let's just say that is not an automatic way to get a country rich, just ending the
Yeah.
imports. Yeah, that's not.
And now a message from our sponsor, Juggernaut Exploration.
One of the more exciting ones, I think, is Juggernaut. I know some people say, well, lightning can't strike twice, and but look, I think one of the things you got to reflect on is that the some of the guys who work here at Juggernaut are some of the same geologists that basically found and have now advanced sherbet at Goliath, okay, over the past years. So they have a very different way of thinking about exploration in the Golden Triangle than most other geologists, okay? And they've gone out and they've identified what could be another sherbet type target here. And the size of these veins is absolutely jaw dropping. My hunch is these guys are onto something pretty special.
The link in the description is right below for Juggernaut Exploration. Now back to the episode.
It's not.
Well, I remember interviewing you a while back, and you said exactly what would happen. You said we'll wait on the next trade reports, and
Yeah.
you basically said before, if trade goes down and you have a huge trade deficit, and we're not importing things anymore, then eventually everything will get expensive.
Yeah, I think, we're starting to see a little bit. This is something to watch really carefully here. I'm a little concerned about this because we now have access to real-time numbers and inflation updated, basically every 24 hours. And so we know really what's going on using, uh, hundreds of thousands of prices. And so what we've seen over the last, I would say like 3 weeks, is some upward pressure that's taken the real-time year-over-year inflation rate from about 1.3% to 2 point, I think last time I looked, it was like 2.1, 2.2. So that's not good. I mean, that's starting, and you and I have talked about this for a couple of years, the possibility that we're going to be going through a second wave
Right.
of inflation. And I thought maybe we were going to avoid that, but that was presuming, status quo, all else equal, everything just kind of persists the way it is. But you've got a problem now that Trump is toying around with these tariff issues, which are going to increase the costs. I mean, the tariffs are paid by U.S. businesses and consumers, not by foreign governments, obviously.
Right.
So they do naturally put upward pressure on prices. How much is never really clear until you actually start to see it unfold. But you've also got Trump pushing the Federal Reserve really, really hard on wanting to lower interest rates, which, would be a disaster. By the way, it would just flood the economy with more money and fueling more inflation, tempting fate really for a second wave. The M2 money supply just now hit equal to its height, which
Okay.
was in, I think, that was like 3 years ago. So it bowed down, and that's a major reason for the declining price pressure, declining upward price pressure, I should say. But now it's now matched exactly what it was 3 years ago. So we've now factored in, the worst quantitative increases of our lifetime that began in 2020 are now, eaten, and now we're headed back up again. So we're in a danger zone, and my concern is that nobody seems to really care, at least among the policymakers. We're toying with tariffs, we're urging, more quantitative easing. Trump's very anxious to see the data come in showing a rising economy. And this is all very, and also Congress is not cutting the budget. You've seen the figures on this. They've not codified the Doge cuts. They're continuing to expand the deficit. There will be no spending cuts whatsoever. And it's only getting worse. We've seen the U.S. debt now downgraded by all three major rating agencies for the
Oh, that's
first
not
time
good.
ever, right? So Moody's just downgraded U.S. debt. So yeah, there's so many aspects of the economic policy of the Trump administration that are bad. Some aspects are good, right? The energy stuff, the deregulation stuff. We don't know if that's going to hold up in the courts. And the public health material that's going on under Trump is magnificent. It was just great. RFK is doing a tremendous job.
Hello, my fellow silver and gold stacker. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the channel. Subscribe, please like the video, and also hit the notification bell. Keep stacking. Oh, absolutely. Like getting healthier food, getting a lot of
Yeah.
these colors and these dyes that are in food and
Yeah,
chemicals
and
banned.
pulling the shots, right? The COVID shot, which was the reason, let's not forget, to wait for the shot was the reason the entire world economy was totally destroyed in 2020.
Right.
And then they unveiled the great, shot, which made which didn't not only did not work, but then made everybody sicker than ever. And so those have been withdrawn from the childhood schedule in the US, the recommended schedule or the routine schedule. And that's the very first shot that's ever been on the schedule that was withdrawn absent eradication or
Oh, wow.
replacement. So it's a historic first. Hugely important things happening on that front, and I'm a fan, right? I mean, it's like I want to be a cheerleader for this. This would not have happened under Kamala, and so on.
Right, right,
There's
absolutely.
so many good things that are happening under Trump, but then also so many things that are just really, truly worrisome. And one worries about the midterms, and then to say nothing of the next presidential election. We don't know what's going to happen. And as much as I object to Trump's tariff policies, what comes after him if we have a resurgent left, which doesn't look likely, but maybe, then all bets are off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You absolutely nailed it, Jeffrey. I couldn't have said it better. Like that was it's absolutely on point how you made the comparison too about Moby Dick and yeah, and the risks too, because you don't know how this could backfire. You don't know how the trade deficit could backfire. We're only looking, we don't have a looking glass that we can look through and say, okay, here's the future.
Mhm.
But you're playing with fire, which is absolutely not a good thing. But I want to thank you so much, Jeffrey, for coming down, speaking to the gold, the silver community, the investing community. Before we go, though, I'm going to put your links in the description below. Where can people follow your work?
Brownstone is the best place. I'm the editor of the website, so everything we run is mostly focused on public health, but we do some economics too. But when you go there, you should be sure and subscribe. We send one email a week. It's the only one we send.
Nice. Everyone who's watching this, highly recommend. Please go check out Brownstone Institute. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Highly recommend you subscribe and follow Jeffrey's work and Brownstone's work. But yeah, Jeffrey, as always, such a huge, huge pleasure. It always makes me happy when you come down to speak to the community because we get another perspective of what's going on in the world.
Appreciate being here. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.